Welcome to your quick stimulus check and current events update. Because we're on the cusp of a stimulus deal, this is a special Sunday edition of the show. So we're going to cover where Congress is at on the next stimulus checks and the next stimulus bill. We'll talk about what we know so far and what to expect with that package. How big is that package going to be? How small is that package going to be? And we have some important vaccine updates that I'm going to cover as well at the end of this video. So jumping right in, Friday, we saw a 48-hour stopgap that was voted in by Congress to allow them some more time to get a stimulus bill worked out and passed, hopefully by the weekend. This was after Mitch McConnell said expect a package to be passed on Saturday. So, once you see the Senate Majority Leader saying something like expect that to happen on Saturday, as a citizen, you tend to believe, okay, we can expect that on Saturday. But then we get the 48-hour extension. And as soon as that extension is in place, automatically that it's not going to happen Saturday. If it happens this weekend, it'll be on Sunday. So, of course, this is pretty frustrating for all of us who just want something passed. As they just want it passed. It's been 7-8 months. Let's get it passed. Let's quit doing these day-by-day extensions. Let's acquiesce on some of the negotiation points and just get it passed for the people. So, like I said, there was very little chance of something passing on Saturday, and it didn't get passed on Saturday. There are a few other issues that we're going to cover why it didn't get passed. But the initial stopgap happened for a few reasons. First, Republicans wanted to wind down the Main Street lending program, and Democrats wanted FEMA funds, and Republicans were worried about them receiving those FEMA funds because they were worried basically that they could be repurposed to help fund state and local governments, which was one of the reasons why they dropped the liability protections from a stimulus bill in trade for dropping state and local government funding. So they're both valid concerns on both sides. And then both sides were also debating on stimulus check size and the scope. Basically, is it going to be $600, $700, $1,200, and who exactly will receive this check? And I know this is the issue that many of you are very concerned about. We don't have super clear details on that, but I'm keeping my eyes peeled. As soon as we find out more details, I will be the first to let you know. So now one more day has passed and there are some mixed opinions on what the future might hold. Everyone is saying we're close to reaching a deal. No one is saying we're far from a deal. So we have that. We have a small win there that there's not, in the past, there was always just like one guy who was like, it's not going to happen. Right now, there is no one saying it's not going to happen, but there is kind of some disagreement on what day we can expect it to happen. Nancy Pelosi says a deal is within reach and may be passed as soon as today, where another person, Majority Whip John Thune, who has been kind of the go-to guy in the last week or two as to what to expect timeline-wise with the stimulus, says negotiators worked through the night and a package is possible today, but more likely to be passed Monday. He basically said, if I were to bet on it, bet on Monday. So, at this point, how many times have we heard expect Saturday, expect Sunday, now expect Monday? Well, and we look back 6 months, expect July, expect August. So it's kind of like, at what point, I hope it happens, but it's just like, just get the deal done. Because of this, I think it'll be passed Monday at the very earliest. I don't expect it to happen at all on Sunday. I'm still going to keep my eyes peeled, but I don't expect it to happen. Now, the roadblocks in negotiations have changed slightly as well. Why they don't have the package passed right now, that has changed. As of today, there's no mention of FEMA funding being an issue. So either they work that out or it was a non-issue from the very beginning. Main Street lending, though, is still being debated on and is a hot issue. It's the number one issue right now. It largely comes down to one senator, Pat Toomey, who is very concerned about this. He's concerned that if they close down these lending facilities, the Treasury and the Fed will just clone the program next year and basically do the same thing again, or they'll use that money to further fund state governments. Now, I see where he's coming from in that it was part of the negotiations that states won't receive funding, at least right now. They're going to work on that later, as long as Republicans cut off the liability protections. So I see why he's concerned. So it's not like we did our side of the deal and then they get their side of the deal a month later, which, it's understandable, but it's holding things up. Democrats argue that if you limit the Fed in this way, though, they're not going to be able to respond to other economic developments. Now, I know this is pretty dry because many of you are worried about the stimulus checks, but it's important to know the nuances as to what is holding things up because obviously this is a legitimate issue. Because of this, either someone's going to have to budge and just say, all right, that's fine, or some complex law will need to be written to bar the Fed and the Treasury from doing certain things like funding the state governments in this way while allowing other funding related things having to do with economic markers. So as you can see, that's where the nuances of the law get really complicated, and I can see why it would take longer and longer to work out the negotiations on that end. I'm not giving them any excuses, but this is where we're at. Then another entirely new disagreement cropped up, funding for food stamps. We don't have a ton of detail on the numbers here, but the basic argument is how much money should go to the program. This one's pretty frustrating. It's like, come on, food stamp funding within this bill is so small. The last I heard about it, it was around $25 billion. That might fluctuate, but at that dollar amount, we're looking at around 2 to 3% of the relief bill going to food stamps. Plus, this money is literally going to people who can't afford food. Like, that is the people who are most in need, and it's being spent on food. I don't know why that would be an issue. Either way, that isn't the main issue. It's the Main Street lending program. I think food stamps will be resolved quickly, and we'll have to hope the Main Street lending part is resolved. Now, I also didn't see any mention of stimulus check size or scope being the issue in negotiations yesterday. It was an issue on Friday, wasn't yesterday. So they might have again ironed out the issues there, or it was kind of a non-issue from the very start. But again, it's that Main Street lending program that is the big hangup. Pelosi herself said once that is resolved, everything else will come together quickly. So putting everything together, here is what we're looking at in a bill with the most up-to-date information we have, which isn't much. They haven't made it super public, the exact figures on everything. We've gotten some rough estimations, but we're looking at around $900 billion for the total bill. We're still looking at $600 to $700 checks unless something extraordinary changes. That's unfortunately probably all we're going to be looking at for stimulus checks. I saw a pretty accurate tweet that shows how most people feel about a $600 check. I'll put that up on the screen. I mean, $600 is better than nothing, but it's like we heard $1,200 all year, and then to cut that in half, I understand the frustration. You know what though? If you want a guaranteed up to $1,600 stimulus check, check out the link in my description for Webull, where you can receive completely free stocks. It'll probably be more like $25 free, but it's up to $1,600. All you have to do is deposit $100 into your account. You don't even have to spend the $100. You get the free stocks. You can take that $100 back. It's kind of like a free stimulus check. I did it. It's a good deal. Check it out if you're interested. Continuing on with what we can expect in that bill, we're also seeing $300 unemployment boost per week, which I don't see that changing at all because that was really hotly debated and they kind of landed at $300. We're also looking at over $300 billion in paycheck protection loans. That actually adds about 50% to what the initial first two rounds of paycheck protection funding came out to, because that was around $666 billion. Plus, we still have funds left to the tune of between $120 billion to $140 billion. So that would leave a ton of funding for small businesses. We don't have all the details as to who will be able to receive that, but we can likely expect it'll go to businesses who saw significant losses in revenues and hopefully fewer employees than the first round. I'm hoping that it's around like 50 employees or less for the companies who receive that, the ones who are most in need and have the least access to funding. We're also looking at funding for SNAP programs, but of course that's still being debated on the exact size, funding for schools, and funding for vaccines. So that's really the bulk of it as of right now. Now the question is, of course, when will it pass? I guess this has been the question all along. I'm giving it a low probability of passing today if I'm being completely realistic with myself. Now, don't get frustrated with me. I'm just the messenger here. I'm just compiling all the data and giving the best presentation of it I possibly can. Tomorrow just seems more realistic. It seems possible. So if it does get passed tomorrow, this could mean checks in the accounts of millions of people within 2 weeks. That quickly, because the system's already in place. So now that we have all that covered, let's finish off with some real quick vaccine news. There's some good news and there's some bad news. The good news is the Moderna vaccine has been approved for use in the US and will begin shipping out. The bad news is Operation Warp Speed is running into some logistical issues. They're finding that they're not able to deliver the amount of vaccines that they promised to states, and this is because of the total number of available vaccines ready to ship out. Luckily, Moderna's approval should help this, as we'll have a second company pushing these out and getting them to the people. And that's going to do it for our special Sunday edition update. If you enjoyed this, please like the video. It helps so much with the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't already. I will let you know as soon as the stimulus package passes. And I just hope you enjoy your weekend, and I hope you have a profitable day.